Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm Surendra Manoj, and I'll be the host for today's session. Today is day 4 of end-to-end deep learning training series, where we'll be discussing about the advanced concepts of Zoho Creator, how Zoho Creator can be integrated with other applications, both within Zoho's ecosystem and outside Zoho's ecosystem, and how we can enhance the capabilities of Creator using that. So yesterday we took a look at building custom UIs. We saw how we can build a HTML snippet, how we can build a ZML snippet, and how we can build a JavaScript widget which can get us the services which are available from third party. And we also took a look at how we can build a JavaScript widget which can give us a custom UI. Okay. So today in this series, we'll be taking a look at how we can integrate Zoho Creator with other cloud-based services so that we can enhance its capability and get the functionalities which are not readily available in Zoho Creator predefined. Okay. So let us get started with the session. Before we get into the session, we have the announcements. Like all the attendees will be placed on mute. Okay. So if you have any questions, please use the questions tab to the left hand side. Your chats will also be responded, but we will not be able to collate those questions for further use. So please use the questions tab in case you have any questions. Our co-trainers will be actively answering those questions to you. We have Abhinaya and Hemant has also joined us. But now will be joining us very soon. And so all your questions will be actively answered. And a recording of this session will be sent to all the attendees. So it will be sent at the end of the series. Okay. So everyone who was registered for the session will be receiving the recording of this session. And please do participate in the polls and surveys which are initiated during and after the session. So these polls and surveys will be helping us to understand the flow of the session and also to design our future sessions based on your feedback. So your feedbacks are really important for us. Okay, so please do participate on these polls and surveys which are being initiated during the session. Okay. And so let us get into today's agenda. Sorry. So today's agenda is we start with the integration approaches. We discuss about the various integration methods which are available. What are the integration options which are available? Then we'll be discussing about the inbuilt integration task. Okay, we'll be also taking a look at Invoke URL. Both of them are almost similar. Okay, and we'll be taking a look at how we can integrate Zoho Creator with Zoho Writer and Zoho Sign using inbuilt integrations. Okay, so the reason we chose Zoho Writer and Zoho Sign is like there's a huge use case for these integrations. So Zoho Writer is an online document editor, and it is not just a document editor. We have options to manipulate documents based on template, and Zoho Sign is a electronic signature application where we can get our documents signed electronically. Okay, and these signatures are valid by eSign Act, and so these two products are like very important. So whatever industry we take, the documentation is very important, right? So we'll be taking a look at how we can integrate Zoho Creator with Zoho Writer and Zoho Creator with Zoho Sign. Then we'll be taking a look at V2 API. So V2 API is again a REST API call with the V2 security system. We'll be discussing about the OAuth concept, and we are using OAuth 2.0. Then we'll be integrating Zoho Creator with Zoho Desk using the OAuth 2.0. We'll be integrating Zoho Creator with Zoho Desk using OAuth 2.0 or V2 API. And we'll be also integrating Zoho Creator with other third-party services. We have three services in mind. One is Rates API. and another one is Google's distance matrix API, and the third one is a free mutual fund API. So the reason why we chose is that Rates API is an open API. It doesn't have any authentication or it doesn't have any restrictions. And the second one is Google's distance matrix API. And the distance matrix API is an authentication based API, and it is also chargeable. So we would like to show you how you can integrate authentication along with the API call. And the third one, which is the free mutual fund NAV finding API. So the reason why I chose this third one is this third API will return us a JSON structure which is having a list value inside it. So we can understand how we can iterate through the list as well. So earlier, when we were making API calls and the JSON structure was returned to us, we were not able to split the JSON structure as collections and list. It was just a string where we can just go ahead and navigate through the get JSON method. But now we have brought up the concept of list and maps in the JSON output. So I'll be also showing you how we can get the desired data from that, and we'll be also discussing about a middleware which is built on Python. Okay, and we'll be also walking through a code which has been built on Java. So this Python middleware is designed. It's a sample middleware which I designed. It's like it will consume the data from a CSV file, and the data will be sent to Zoho Creator, and we'll be getting the response code. So this middleware will be using V2 API method only. And we also have Java middleware built, and this Java middleware again consumes the data from a CSV file and makes the V2 API call. And using that API call, the data gets transferred to Zoho Creator form. Okay, so so this is the entire agenda, and today's session is going to be like heavily loaded with programming. So in case anyone needs a break in between, do let us know. We can have a 5 minutes break every 1 hour. We don't have to wait for the complete 2 hours. In case it is required, if it is not, we can continue with the session. Okay. So do let us know if you have any requirements or if you have any doubts in the questions and chat section. Thank you. And let us get started with integration approaches. Okay. So the integration approaches, normally integration happens when we want to enhance the capability of our creator application. So let us say we want to we have a form. Once we fill that form, we want a ticket to be created in Zoho Desk, and at the same time we want a contact to be created in Zoho CRM. Okay, so doing the same work both the places will cause a lot of troubles. We have to do the same work twice, and there's a good chance that there may be human errors in the data entry process, and it's not advisable to expose a Zoho Desk module or a Zoho CRM module which is meant for internal use, right? So, CRM or Desk is an internal tool, but Zoho Creators form can be exposed to the public. So it's like we can automate multiple processes at a single flow. So the customer comes in, they fill up a particular form, and the data gets transferred to appropriate applications. So that is one simple example which I gave. So integration can do a lot more of things. Okay. So this example which I told you is a very simple and straightforward example. So it's like instead of doing the same work twice, I have to enter the data in Creator, and then I have to enter the data in CRM, and I have to enter the data in Desk, and whatever may be the application. Since almost all the products of Zoho are using Deluge, we are approaching towards a point where the integration is becoming so seamless. Okay, and so that is the reason why we go for integration. So let it be any of the products which is available based on our requirements. We can write integration flows and get them integrated. So there are four methods in which I would say four methods. So one first method is integration fields and forms. Okay, so integration fields and forms, I am sure Avi would have taught you the session two. Okay, so I'll be also giving you a small overview on that. Integration field is used to look up at data from a existing or a third or a different application. So the pre-existing services are Zoho CRM, Zoho Zoho CRM, Salesforce, QuickBook, and I think it's okay. I'm not sure about the fourth one. We will be taking a look at that when we are going for the practical one. And this integration field is real-time sync in nature. So every data which is being fed into the target system will be reflecting immediately in our creator form. And then comes the integration form. Integration form is the form structure which is used to transfer data from Zoho creator uh, directly to the target application. And then comes the inbuilt integration task. So the inbuilt integration task is used when we have to send data from one application to other, and we don't have the integration forms ready. So the integration forms is again available for only four predefined applications, right? So in that case, we can write our own inbuilt integration task, and these inbuilt integration tasks are again API calls. The only thing is they are wrapped up in such a way that it is very easy for the developer to establish integration task. So it is again a API call which is happening, and the next one is the Oauth API. So the difference between the inbuilt integration task and the Oauth API is, let us say there are two applications, Zoho Creator and Zoho Desk, and if both of them are under the same account, okay, in that case we can easily integrate them with inbuilt integration task. And let us say we want to integrate Zoho Creator with application in a different account. So let us say the Creator is owned by Surinder and Desk is owned by Avi, and we want to establish integration. So in that case, we'll be going for OAuth V2 API. And so the OAuth API can also be used when we are trying to integrate it with third-party services. Let us say there's a SAP system which wants to communicate with Creator. So the SAP system wants to send data to our Creator application. We can establish a OAuth API connection, and the data flow can be initiated. Okay, so it can be done both the ways as long as the endpoint is a REST API. So these are the four integration approaches which we have, and the first one will be the integration field. Okay, let me just take you through the integration field quickly. So, and I will not be spending much time on the integration field and integration forms as it is already discussed in session two. When we create a form, we call it as input field. Create the form, and we have the integration fee. We have the integration fields at the under the special fields section. So we have the services. We have Zoho CRM, Zoho Recruit, Zoho QuickBooks, and Zoho CRM, Zoho Recruit, QuickBooks, and Salesforce. So these four services can be by default looked up, and QuickBooks and Salesforce requires a more connection setting, and CRM and Recruit doesn't require them. So we can go ahead and select the service, and we can select the module, and then we can select a particular field from that module. So the mandatory condition for this integration field to work is that the person or the account from which the integration field is initiated should have subscription to the target application. For example, if I am initiating the integration field to Zoho CRM, I should have Zoho CRM subscription in my account. Okay, so only then the integration field will work. And the integration field again is kind of like a lookup field, and so say a few properties. This value, this looks up the data from CRM as of now. So we have integrated with CRM, and then comes the integration form. So when we go to the form, we have the option to create an integration form. Again, the integration form is available for four default services. It's QuickBooks, Salesforce, CRM, and Recruit. And let me give the name as the form. So, so once we select the service from which we want this form to be created, then we have to select the module. So once we select the module, so this data sync is happening from Zoho Creator to the target application, and we can see the field, which is fields which are available in the integration form is different from the normal fields. So these are the fields which are available in CRM's module, and the fields which cannot be used in this integration form are the ones which is having file upload, media upload, or any URL based fields. Okay. Other than that, all the fields can be used here. And by default, when we are creating this application, okay, by default, when we are creating this form, the mandatory fields for those modules will be populated, and we won't be given an option to remove those modules. So it will say this field cannot be deleted because it's a mandatory field. Okay, so if you open a purchase order information in CRM, these fields will be marked as mandatory, and we can pass on the other required fields here, and we can start using it. So this is about the integration field and integration form. And now let us go ahead and take a look at the integration task. So it's right here. I'm sorry, I didn't take a look at the next slide. So these are the four default integration services which we possess. And so the integration field works when both applications are in the same account. Okay. And so here comes the integration forms. Again, the integration happens without writing any code, but it is available for the default services. And the same, both the integration can happen only when both the accounts are in the same account. Okay. And here comes the inbuilt integration task. Inbuilt integration task again can happen only when both the applications are under the same account. Okay, and if they are in a different account, we'll be going for implementing Oauth Api API. So let us say Gabriel is owning Zoho Creator and Gabriel is owning a different Zoho service. We'll be using both the we can use integration task to get integrated between Zoho Creator and the service which is being required to be integrated. And so let me give a few examples for integration task. We will start with integrating Zoho Creator with Zoho Desk. We'll write a inbuilt integration task, and we'll create a ticket in Zoho Desk by filling up a form in Creator. So I'll create a new form. I'll call it as Desk Integration. Desk Inbuilt Integration. So we'll be using the same for. Okay, I'm creating a form. So let me get one single line field. Okay, so this field will be the subject. So once I fill this subject, I want a ticket to be created in my Zoho Desk account. Say subject. Okay, so done. Let me just go to desk integration task documentation. This documentation will be shared to you by our co-trainers. So let me just so Zoho Desk inbuilt integration. inbuilt integration documentation. So for this integration, so we can see. So, uh, inbuilt integrations. Okay. So here we can see all the actions, all the services which are having. Let me choose Zoho Desk. So this is for documentations, inventory, integration, people. Okay. So this is the documentation for Zoho Desk, and here we can see we can get a record. We can create get a record by ID, create, update, search records, and all. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a ticket. So let me open the documentation for creating a ticket, and the syntax for establishing this integration is we have to define the variable name, and then zoho.desk.create, we have to give the organization ID, then the module name, and then the value which we are supposed to pass, it should be passed on as a map, and then we have to establish the connection. So we'll be taking a look at connection in this while we are building the application. Uh, so let me go ahead, and this is the sample example which has been given. So we can see the data has been constructed as a collection. So there's a key and a value. So this subject is the field name, and the department ID and the contact IDs are the field names, and we are passing the values. And then we have established this inbuilt integration task. So let me get started with this. Uh, let me go to workflow functions. So I'm writing this in a function and then calling it in a form. You can do it in a other way around. You can directly write it in the form workflow, and you can call this integration on submit. Okay, and I'll say this inbuilt. And let me create the function. So it's desk inbuilt, and let us start with response is equal to Zoho dot desk. So you can see this Zoho deluge editor is predictive. So it gives me all the options. So if I say dot, it gives me the option to create a record. And now I've been asked for four things. The first one is the organization ID, and the second is the module name, which has to be passed in as a string value. So the module name is like either it's a ticket or whether it's a contact or it's a anything. So that value has to be passed on. Then is the data map, which has to be passed on as a map, and then comes the connection name. Okay, so we'll be constructing all these in the data, and then we'll be passing the data to this integration task. So let me start with the data part. Value is equal to, let me start a collection, and the first one which we need is the, okay, we need the subject, and the subject's value, let us say hi. Okay, and the second one we need is the department ID. I'll show you how we can get the department ID and contact ID in a moment. So let us say department ID, and we have to also get the contact ID. Contact ID. Okay, so now the things which we need are department ID, contact ID. We also have to get the organization ID as well. So let me get into my desk account. So it is desk.zoho.com. You can see I'm opening both of them in the same session. So it's I'm using Mac, so I have multiple. I have the option to maintain multiple sessions. So both my creator and sign are in the same session. So if I can show, you can see the email ID used for login is surendra.sr+tz@zohodesk.com. The same way, my desk also has the same mail ID. If you can see, it is surrender.sr+tc.zohotest.com. So both these applications are present under the same account. So let me just get started. The first requirement we have is to get the department ID. So the department ID is present under the setup. So under the setup, we can see the setup of settings option here. If I click on setup, under general, we have the option called departments. Okay, based on your licensing, you will have option to create multiple departments or only single department. So I am going and opening this department. So the moment I open this department, in the URL, we can see the department ID being populated. So I'm just copying this ID from the URL, and I'm placing my department ID here. And we can also go for contacts. The contacts is the customers. Contacts, we can see I have a few contacts of my own. If I click on any one of the contact ID will also be given to me in the URL. And you can see I have more than 23. So these are like, this is the default contact which I use for every demo. So that's why it's having 23 open tickets. Let me just get the contact ID. And we have the contact ID here. Okay. So now we have successfully completed our data map. Okay. The next one, we have to pass on the values to the integration task. So the first value which we wanted is organization ID here, which is supposed to be passed on as a integer. Okay. So let me go ahead and get the organization ID. Again, under setup, if we take under the developer space, we have the option called API. If we get into API, at the end, we'll be having the organization ID. Okay. So there are also ways from which you can use other API calls to get these data, but for the time being, and let's not take much dive into this desk side. So I am taking this directly. This is the organization ID, and then comes the module in which I want this data to be created. Okay, so we are trying to create a data record, and it is asking me in which module I want this to be created. So let me go to get into tickets. Okay, so tickets is the module in which I want this to be created, and give it as tickets. And the next one is the data map, the data which is supposed to be passed, and it is the value. And finally comes the connection. So this connection is the control mechanism or the flow regulatory mechanism for integration task. So we cannot just like that. Okay. So we cannot just like that open our application to everyone, right? So we have to make sure the integration is happening with proper authorization and proper understanding. So that is why we have to go ahead and create a connection. So to create a connection, we have to go to our home. Okay. So setup under extensions. So in our creator application, we have to get to our home. Okay, to create a connection, go to home. Under home, there's an option for setup. We go for setup. Under extensions, we see connection. So this connection, why we are creating is like the connection regulates the integration data flow. It defines what are the actions that can be done using this connection. So, for example, let me show you something. So, when adding a record, these are the services for which we have default connection. We have default connection for QuickBooks, Salesforce. If you want to integrate it with the payment processing, we have Authorize.net, we have Forte, PayPal, we have Stripe, and SMS services as well. If the connection which you are looking for is not predefined or is not available by default, we can go for Zoho Oauth. Okay, so when we click on Zoho Oauth, it will provide us with this service. So let me give the connection name as desk inbuilt. Okay, So here we can see we have a list of scopes which are associated to each and every component. So we can see these are the set of scopes which are for desk, and then we have the scope for desktop, notebook, orchestrally. All the applications which are available in Zoho will have its own scope defined. So the scope is like telling the integration system what can be done. Okay. So for example, I'm going to search for the tickets. So I want to create a ticket. Okay. But what I'll do is I'll give a scope for reading the ticket and we'll try to establish this connection and it will fail. So I just wanted you to know what are the things which are doing. So we can see the system is asking us to allow us to read its tickets. So I'm accepting it. Okay. So now using this desk inbuilt connection, I will be able to. Okay, so using this solution. Okay, let me create it one more time. I think that was a misunderstanding. Desk inbuilt, and I create tickets dot read. Okay, I think. Okay, so let me use another connection. So this ZB connection is a connection which I have created earlier, and it has the desired scope. So we will not we'll be taking a look at how the connection will be helping us. So I'll be giving the connection name as ZB connection. Let me save it. So now we have fed in all the data. We have created a subject. We have created the department ID and the contact ID, the organization ID, tickets, and data map, and the connection. So in this connection, I have already defined the connection scope as desk.tickets.create. Okay. So if you can see we see all these scopes, right? So if I can go ahead and take a look at it, okay, create. Desktop tickets are create. I am authorizing. How everything is showing. Okay, so now we have all the integrations showing us. So like okay, let us stick to the desktop input. So we'll be able to see the difference. So desk input. Just execute it. Now we'll be getting info response. So we can see there is a error called scope mismatch. So even though we have established the integration, the connection is checking whether this integration is allowed to make the function which it is trying to do. So it is checking whether I have allowed this integration, allowed this connection to create a record in Zoho desk, and the scope is not there. So let me go ahead and update the scope here. Okay. So tickets dot create, right? So go settings dot tickets dot create, and let me authorize it one more time. Okay, now if I go ahead and execute again, see now we have got a success message. We can see that, right? So earlier, since we didn't allow the scope, and the system was like, no, this integration task is not having the permission to do the action which it's trying to do. So now if I get into my desk and if I get into tickets, we can see there's a ticket number 148 created under my name. So it is showing high, and the time is 6:06. So the reason it is saying 6:06 is my account is again running in USDC. Okay, I think it is 6 o'clock in the morning there, or it is in Pacific. I'm not sure. There's some configuration, time configuration differences there. Okay, and closing it. Uh, okay. So this is about the inbuilt integration task. Okay, so now we have got this value by static, right? So how about we get this value dynamically and pass the value from a form? I'll just remove this. I'll say as the we'll pass a parameter to this inbuilt function. Let me say string subject, and we pass this subject as a value here. So let me just save this. Okay, there's no error. Okay, can close. So done. Getting into form workflow, I'll create a new workflow, and the form is desk inbuilt integration. I'm just giving it as on user input of the field. I'm calling that integration task. So let's say create ticket. So it is generally not wise to execute this on user input, since for this demo purpose I'm executing it. It's generally wise to execute that on successful submission. The reason why we say don't execute it on user input is, let us say we are typing it and sometimes we want to change something. Okay, let us we go out and then come back and change something. It is like it creates multiple tickets over that. So we don't want that. Okay. So for this demo purpose, I'm giving creating it on user input plus, but it is widely advisable if we want to execute the integration task, execute on success. Okay. And so let us say this app dot desk inbuilt. So let me just zoom in, so we can see the delete builder itself is providing me with prediction. So I would say this app. So this is the method in which we call a custom function in our form workflow. Okay, this app dot. The moment we say this app dot, it will list us with all the custom functions which are available in this particular application. So I'm saying desk inbuilt. Okay. So the desk inbuilt is supposed to get a input parameter as a string. So it is asking me to which field I want that to populate. So I'm pointing that to single line field. So let me just save, and that's all. Okay, it's updated. Cancel. Done. Now if we go ahead and access the application, and let me just go ahead and say this is the demo for E2E day 2. It's demo. And if I take it out, so the integration task is getting submitted, we can see the success. And okay, we can see the ticket number 149 being created. Sorry, it is day 4. I said it as day 2. So this is how we can use an inbuilt integration task. Okay. So there is one more concept in the inbuilt integration task, which is invoke URL. Okay. So the invoke URL is like there are some scopes which are not readily available in the inbuilt integration task, and in that case, we'll be going for invoke URL. So let me just take you through a small documentation for invoke URL. So delete invoke URL, and so we can see the invoke URL function, and so there are like some points where we may not have the inbuilt integration task readily available. So we may have to pass on the values in a different manner. So we would have seen that while we are trying to get external get a image file from the external, while Abhi was teaching you the deluge. Okay, so it was trying with the file functions. We would have seen invoke URL being extensively used when she was trying to get the image file or the PDF file from external URL. We are making a get call, right? So In those cases, we'll be using invoke URL, and that is one simple example. And we have a lot of application for invoke URL. I'll show you a small example. Since we are trying to integrate Zoho Creator with Zoho Writer, right? So why don't we start from that? Just let me open my writer documentation, writer.zoho.com, and let me just get my get the details of a particular document or a writer template by ID. Okay, let me just get into the documentation. Okay, so I'm posting this link in the URL. So this is like a documentation which is collated by our writer team, and it is publicly available. So I'm posting this URL in the chat link. Please use this link for your reference. Uh, please use this link for understanding writer writer integration. So please use this documentation. This document has all the integration tasks which is available with respect to Zoho Writer. Okay, so we'll be using this document, and I'll be getting the details of a document based on by using a document ID. So let us try to find out how we can achieve that. So this is my writer document, and so this is a document which I have, and let me just open it. And we can see this is a rental agreement document, and it is having a few fields associated to it. So we can see the rental agreement. This is a field, the place of execution, which is enclosed within double quotes, right? So sorry, double arrow, both the sides. So this is a field, and this field is called as merge field. So there are two kinds of fields. One is fillable, and another one is merge fields. And when it comes to writer, the fillable fields are like we just generate a particular template and send it over via mail to the recipient, and the recipient just fills their data to the template and sends it back. So that is the concept of fillable field. But when it comes to merge fields, right? So we'll be uh, we'll be merging the data from a data source. So, for example, let me just show you under settings here under automation. So you can see we have the option for merge template, right? So if I go for merge template, it will be asking me from which data source it wants me to merge. So let me just it's been pre-configured. Yes, remove the data source. So now, if I go ahead and add a data source, it is asking me from where it wants to import the data, whether it is a CSV data or contacts, Zoho sheets, forms. If it's a creator form, you can directly go ahead and merge it with creator. So now I said creator form, and it is asking me from which form I want it to. So I can merge it with any application which is available in my account. So the integ is the last application which I created. So it is directly pulling me to the integ. And integ is having two reports. One is the integration field report, another one is desk inbuilt integration report. Okay, so I can merge it with any of these applications. So any of this report, if I go ahead and add it, all the fields which are available in that particular report will be shown to me. And if I go ahead and configure this field from the report, individual record will be generated, individual document will be generated for every record which is available in that particular report. Okay, so this is like doing it from manually. So from the front end, how we can configure so create as a source, and we can generate the documents. But right now what we are going to do is we are going to understand how we can automate this documentation process from creator using integration task. So for which I'll be just getting the document ID, and using the document ID, I'll be going through all the field types which are available, and we'll be sending data to those fields. Okay, so let me just go to the writer document, the document which I just shared. Okay, so in this document, we have the option to get document by ID. Get document details. It's there. So this is the one which returns me all the field details in the document. So I'll just follow this procedure. Okay. So let me get into my creator. I'll write a new function. Okay, so the reason I'm working with functions is like I can execute the function and show you then and there instead of writing a workflow and then getting to the access mode and then filling in the data. I can just execute it then and there. So that is why I'm using function. So you can also write all your codes in the form workflow and execute them. And both the ways it works the same. Okay, there's no difference in writing them. The only thing is we go to a function when we feel that this particular set of code will be reused multiple times. It doesn't matter whether the function has to be called in only within this application or any application within that account. Okay, so it's not, these custom functions are not limited to that particular application alone. So let us say there's application A which is having a function. That same function can be called from application B as well. So in that case, we'll be writing functions. If not, simple form workflow will be enough. Okay. So I would say invoke writer. So we will be using invoke URL to get the details of the document. So let me put it as default. Uh, So I don't need any return data type. In case you need this function to return anything, please do go ahead and create a function which will return. So as of now, I set it as void. We can set it as boolean. We can set it as integer. We can set it as string. Anything, any list and collections are also possible. So based on your requirement, please do set them and return it. Okay. So let me get the document ID in a variable. Doc ID is equal to ID is equal to this is a copy of rental agreement, right? So let me just copy this and paste it here. So this is my document ID, and this document ID again I opened the document. Okay, so here I went to writer and I clicked on open to the document. In the URL you can see after writer.zoho.com/writer/open. After that, I have this alphanumeric document ID populated for me. So that is the document ID which I just copied. And then we will go for the URL of the writer. So the URL is, this is the URL. Let me just copy this and I'll paste it here. So it's this is the view API endpoint, and we are passing the document ID as a value to this API. And now we'll be making a invoke URL call. Okay, so let us say doc object is equal to invoke URL, and first we have to pass the URL. So this is the URL which I'm going to pass, and so I'm giving it this URL, and I want this to be a get. Okay, and then comes the parameters. If we have any parameter set, we can go ahead and set that parameter. If not, we can simply remove them. I don't have any parameter or header associated to this right now. And then comes a connection, and the connection is going to be ZB connection. Oh, there's no error. Okay, line number 5, document object is missing, so there's a semicolon at the end, and let us also info the document object. Okay, info document object. Document ID is not defined. Just give me 1 second. Document ID, it's not document ID, it's doc ID. I copied and pasted it. So, okay, let me just execute it now. I'm executing it. Okay, so the reason is component metrics all undersolved, number of characters, number of sentences. Okay, it's giving me the number of sentences, number of characters, and invoice. Give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Let me just open a script which I created earlier. Okay, so here we have create ticket, get sign, template by ID. This is sign, template by ID. Okay, so just let me save and execute it. So I think I have missed something here. Okay, so the reason, so the difference which in both the thing is we were trying to get the fields, right? So, but in the API, you can see I have defined it as metrics. Okay, so here I have defined it as metrics, so that is why it is giving me the details like why, like the you can see all the metrics has been defined. So how many unresolved issues are there, how many resolved issues are there, all the changes, tags, so number of sentences, number of characters and words. So these are the metrics which has been given. So because that is the API I have called over here. Okay, so this happened just because I copied and pasted it. I'm really sorry about that. So here we can see the API endpoint where I'm giving the document ID, okay, and the value which I require is the fields, okay. I have given the fields, so now if I execute, this is offering me with all the fields which are available. So the same way how we have ID for each and every record in Zoho Creator. Every field in Zoho Writer has its own ID. Okay, so we can see the place of execution. Okay, the place of execution field is having the ID of this. If I get over here, and so you can see this field, the place of execution field is having this ID. And using these IDs, we can transfer data from Zoho Creator to Writer. Okay, so this is one simple example of invoke URL. Since we are trying to integrate Zoho Creator with Zoho Writer, I wanted to show you how the Writer works, how the invoke URL works, and this is step one of integrating Zoho Creator with Writer. Okay, and just let me execute it one more time. We'll create a new custom function and I'll just get the field values here. Okay, I just copy the field value, close it, and done. And now what we are going to do is we are going to merge this document and send this document to get signed. Okay, and so that the we'll be using merge and sign. Okay, so this function model, this example, what it does is it sends data from Zoho Creator, creates a document in Zoho Writer, and the document which is created in Zoho Writer will be transferred to Zoho site. Okay, so it is like automatically the data which is created in Zoho Writer will be sent to Zoho Sign. So that is this function. I'll just show you how this can be used. So uh, let me go ahead and create a new custom function. So the reason I copied this field values is like we have to pass on the field value field values while we are trying to send data from Zoho creator to the writer document, right? So we cannot just call the field name. We don't have the concept of field link name in writer. So we have the concept of ID. Okay, so let me just say writer merge and sign. Okay, so it's like the default namespace. If we want, we can also create any new namespace we want. Okay, let me just paste that value which I copied. Place of execution type text. Okay, I'll just enter. Just give me a second. Let me just get all the field values one by one, so it will be easy for us to use. Okay, so as of now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields. Okay, I just got it from the previous execution. So let us go ahead and start building our new custom function. So like first thing, what I have to do is I have to get the document ID. Okay, so let us get the same document ID. Uh, just copy it, and document ID is equal to, so this is the document ID which I have got, and then we have to get the URL. Okay, so I'll get the URL from the documentation itself. This time we'll be careful. URL is equal to, so URL is equal to, we have the URL here. I think this time I'll be verifying the URL before executing. Okay, so what it is asking me, so I will be sending document ID, and I want this to be merged, and then I want this to be sent to sign. So the URL is right. Just take it out. Okay, and then we have to create the field values as map. Okay, so if we can take a look at the documentation, we can see they have called the fields with names, but sometimes the names won't work. Okay, so I have tried. It's like I don't know why it is happening. I have to find out. But sometimes when we are calling the fields by the name, the data is not properly getting populated. Maybe because I'm using the merge fields instead of fillable fields. I don't know. Okay. So in that case, what we'll do is we'll be calling these fields using their ID. Okay. We'll be constructing a data map, and we'll be sending the data from out there. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll start building our data map. Say fields is equal to a map, and fields map dot put fields map dot put, and I'll say the object. So first I have to give the place of execution, right? So we have every display name along with the ID. Let me just copy it, and I'll say the place of execution to be Chennai, and the next one is the owner name. So fields dot put. I'll call the ID of the owner name. Okay. So the owner name, let me put it as Shiva Guru Nalan, and fields dot put, and the next one is owner's address. Okay, let me just copy it and paste it over here. And let me put the address to be 3A bar 37. Okay, and let us give the tenant's name. Okay, we'll start put And the tenant's name, let me just get the tenant's name. And the tenant's name is going to be Surendra. And this is the tenant's address. Address and tenant's address is going to be, let us just say, sorry. Okay, just to save time, okay, we can give the actual address as well. So fields dot put and now what it's one double and it's the passport location. Let me give the passport location as Madurai and fields dot put and let me give the display name. I'm sorry, issue date, right? The passport issue date. Let me put it as 10/11/2020. Okay. So now we have passed on value to all the fields which are our which we had, and now I'm going to create a new object which will have the details of the people to whom this document has to be sent or signed. Okay. So so far we have created our field map, and now let me create it as I'll just create sign object. Give me a second. Let me take a verification with the documentation. I forgot to remember. So we created the fields, and then we have to pass it as a map, pass as a value to another map. So we say so data is equal to map. Okay, and we say data dot put. We pass a key as data and the value as fields. Okay, so we have constructed our data map, and then we have to create one more map parameters. Okay, uh, params as our map, and we say params dot put. Let me say the field name to be merge data and the object to be data. Okay, so this is the map which we created earlier. Okay, and so now we have constructed our data map. Okay, so this is how the data is going to be transferred. Okay, and the field values will be passed on as parameters. So that is why we have constructed the map as parameter. And if we take a document, take a look at documentation, that is the structure which we have to make. So first we have to create the fields, and then we have to pass this field value as a value to another key which is named as data, and this collection again has to be passed on as a value to the key merge data. Okay. So now what we are going to do is we are going to create a parameters, and we are going to say we are going to pass this data as merge data, and we are also going to mention the file name. Let me just get onto that. Merge data, we have passed on the data. We are also supposed to pass on the file name. Params put. Let me get the file name as. Okay, file name is going to be first tenant document. Okay, so we have the file name to be merged tenant document, and so now let us go ahead and start constructing our receivers list. Okay, yeah, who are the person who wants to sign? So let me say signer list. equal to list, and we are going to add values to this signer list based on as a map. Okay, so what I am going to say, I'm going to create a collection. Signer collection is equal to just create some map signer collection dot put, and the first one which we are going to which we are supposed to pass is the recipient. Okay, so the first recipient will be my official mail ID, which is Surendra. Sorry, so recipient one. Okay. So this recipient one is from the Zoho sign, which I'll be showing you in a few minutes. I'll just take you through the sign. So this is the sign application. I'm sorry, I didn't take you through much of this documentation. So if I go ahead and edit, we can see the recipient's order. So this is the recipient's say. So this is the field name in which I'm passing the data. So this is the list, or this is the place where we add all the people who are supposed to sign, and there are four different types of signers, so which we'll be seeing in the next section of the integration series. Okay. So let me just go ahead and recipient one. I'll say Surendra.esa, Surendra.esa at zoho.com. Okay. So okay, now let us add this map to the list. Signer list dot add signer collection. Okay. So now we have our sender list. So now let us put this value to the params. Okay. Params dot put say signer data, and say signer list. Signer data and signer list. Now let us, I think I'm right. Let me just check with the documentation one more time. Okay. So we have constructed our parameters, we are given the file name. We have also constructed our signer list. Okay, and we have also passed this to our added that, and this again passed on to the parameter. Okay, so now we are going to make a invoke URL call. Okay, and so we already have the URL here. Let me go ahead and make the invoke URL. Document object is equal to invoke URL, and so for the URL we'll be calling this URL itself. So let me say is URL, and this type is going to be post. If we are sending the data, and the parameters we are going to say params, and there's no headers for this section. So let me just remove this headers. And let me give the connection as ZB connection. Okay. So the reason I'm using ZB connection is I have already configured these scopes. Okay, most of my demos I run using the ZB connection object. So that is why I'm using ZB connection. And so if you are using a different connection, as we discussed in the last section, we have to go ahead and uh, give authorization to that particular scope so that the integration task can perform whatever it is trying or whatever it is intended to perform. Okay. So let me now go ahead and execute this function. Okay, so let me just info the document object. Okay, so we can see we have successfully created a document. Okay, so we can see so far the URL is called for like writer. Okay, so there's you can see the writer.zoho.com. So this is the URL, and this is the document which I have used for this creation of creation. But if I go to Zoho Sign, and I can see a document has been created new. So you can see the merge tenant document which is created on March 4th, 1211, right? So this is the latest document which we just generated. Okay, if I can see, I'll be able to monitor the. I'll be able to monitor the status of the document, and it may take a couple of minutes for me to receive a mail. I'll see if I have got any mail. Okay. Okay, March 19, 2021. No, that's not the one. Let me just take a look at it. So the mail, it will take a couple of minutes for us to receive. March 4, 2021, I think this is the one. Okay. So here we can see, right? So this is the rental agreement which we generated. We can see all the values which we populated from our writer function. You can see the location has been populated as Chennai. Okay, and the agreement is between Shivagurunathan and the tenant Surendra. Okay, and that was his XOXOX, which we just gave. So this is how we can integrate Zoho Creator with Zoho Writer, and the same can be sent to Sign for documentation. Okay, and before we get into Sign, I'll just show you the details of few concepts which are available in Zoho Sign. Okay, the first and foremost, when I try to access this application, it's not mandatory that if I'm signing a document using Zoho Sign, I have to have a Sign account. Okay, I all I have to do is to have a mail ID from to where I'll be receiving my document, which is supposed to be signed. I can go ahead and click without having a Zoho Sign account. So that is the one beauty of it. The person who is generating the document is the one who is mandated to have a Zoho Sign account, not the person who is signing the document. Okay. So the first one we can see is that you have to agree that this document has been signed electronically, and this is valid under the electronic records and signature disclosure. Okay, and Zoho Sign is GDPR compliant. Okay, the second step is we have to go ahead and sign our name. So we have multiple ways to do that. I can just simply go ahead and type my name. The document will itself generate a few signatures models for me. If not, I can go ahead and draw my signature. So I can just go ahead. Okay, I'm really sorry. That's more. I'm using mouse. I can go ahead and draw my signature over here, or if not, I can go ahead and upload an image which is containing my signature. Let me just find out a small image which is the images. Okay, so let me just get this. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we can see there's so once I give my signature, it says okay, you have successfully signed the document. If I click on finish, okay, that's all. So I can download this document in a PDF format to me, or I can also email this document to me back after getting signed. And if I come to my sign account and if I check, see right now it is status is on progress. If I just refresh it, okay, if I just refresh it, we can see the status is being marked as completed. So that is one beauty of Zoho Sign. Okay, there are a few more. How to say? There are a few more features of Zoho Sign which I would like to discuss. Um, the first feature, let me take you to the documentation one more time. We just saw the document writer, right? So the writer integration use case. First use case we can discuss is like when we are trying to onboard an employee, right? So while we are trying to onboard an employee, it is like we have a lot of documentations to be shared. Let it be policy related documents, let it be the beneficial documents, offer letters, so documents has to be shared. So instead of doing everything in a paper, okay, which the paper mode has the tendency to get lost or get damaged, right? So we can what we can do is we can integrate Zoho Creator with Zoho Sign. We can simply run the custom function via schedule, or we can have a custom action, and all the templates which are supposed to be generated for that particular employee can be generated within minutes and delivered to. Just give me 1 second. Let this background noise pass. Okay. Just give me 1 minute, guys. Okay. So the thing is, so when we are trying to onboard this employee, what we can do is we can just simply execute a function which will generate all the documents which are supposed to be shared to this employee. And the documents, if we want, we can place the document in a workflow folder and then give access to that workflow folder to that particular employee. Okay, thank you. So we will be how to say, we will be sharing storing all the files in a particular location in the work drive, and then we'll be passing sharing that location, giving access to that particular location. So what this enables the user is like it's not mandated that they have to carry the physical documentation every time, and they can access the document from anywhere. Okay, since whatever is a cloud-based storage, they can access the document from anywhere, and this access document, they can access it multiple times. So if it's a paper document, they have to like carry it all the way. So it's not a good possibility, right? So that is one use case, and the second use case is like while we are trying for flat booking system. So right now we just signed rental agreement with the tenant. Okay, let us say there is a company which is holding like thousands and thousands of flats, and they are offering them for tenants. Okay, so let us say consider example of Airbnb. So they are like they rent space to users, right? So in that case, generating a physical document to every one of the users is not a viable solution. So we can just go ahead and feed in the customer information to our creator, and creator itself executes custom function and generates documents, which will be directly sent to the tenant to sign. Okay, so just informing them, we say, hey, this is your rental agreement. Go ahead and sign and send it over to me. Okay, and these are the two integration methods which we saw. One is using Zoho Creator's data source, which we configured from the front end I showed you, right? So we can go to the automation process where we can create a merge template and configure Creator's data source and pull data. Or we can also use the pre-built integration task, which we just saw. Okay, and we can also, this is how we can use data Creator as a data source to writer, and this is a pre-built integration task, and these are the tasks which can be done by integrating Zoho Creator with Zoho Writer. We can get documents, we can upload documents, we can share a document which has been created, we can merge fields, merge and download, merge and send, merge and store, merge and sign. Okay, so this merge and store is like, this is what I told you. So we can just merge a document, we can get the data from creator, merge it, and put the document in a particular folder in OneDrive. So that is the merge and store, and the merge and sign is what writer sign document is what we just saw. It just creates a document in writer and sends it to Zoho sign for signature. Okay, and then comes Zoho Creators integration with Sign. So Zoho Sign, to talk about it as a product, it is like it's a major product. So like, I would say it eliminates a lot of delays in the business. So it is not required that both the parties should be physically present, and it's not mandated that both the parties should be physically present. So let us say a deal is happening between a company in India and another company in US. So getting this document signed physically, So what happens? They have to create all the documents. They have to send it from India. They have to courier it. It will be reaching out to them. They have to review that process and sign and send it back. It's like it takes on 15 days in the transit itself, right? So Zoho sign is like it's a electronically signing process where we can sign the documents electronically, and these digitally signed documents are emailed and these documents which are being signed, right? So they are valid and they are authorized by e-sign Act. Okay. So we can also track the status of the document. We can send document requests to the signatories, and Zoho sign is GDPR compliant. Since we are using personal informations like the signature, Zoho sign is 100% GDPR compliant, and it is having AES 256 encryption. So which is I think it's the maximum level of encryption which is available right now. It's a military grade encryption, and we encrypt the data which is addressed with AES 256 grade encryption, and while the data is at transit, it is being encrypted in a SSL method. Okay, so that offers the maximum to maximum security to the data which is available in SourceSign. And as we discussed, every document which is signed under the e-sign act is valid, similar to what we do with the integration which is happening, the signature which is happening using pen and paper. Sorry about that. The business cases are the use cases which we have while we are sending documents for signature, like employee onboarding system. So the employees will have to sign a lot of documents, right? So they will have to sign the non-disclosure agreements. They have to accept the offer letters. They have to sign other beneficial documents. They have to sign. So there are a lot of documents which are supposed to be signed while we are onboarding an employee, right? So all these processes can be automated or made easy while we are using the Zoho sign system. Okay. The data can be fetched from Zoho Creator, and the templates can be created in Zoho Sign, and the created templates can just get the data and initiate the document for signature. Okay. And the next one is tracking the expenses. So this is a major point which every organization faces. So the employee files a claim, and they say they have filed the claim for like 10 bills. When it reaches to the finance department, there are only 8 bills. Two of them would have gone missing, and then the claim process will be like delayed or until there is a clarification and all. So the problem is that the documents gets lost in the transit. Okay, understand it. We are so careful that okay, unless or until we are so careful, the document gets lost when we are in the transit. Okay, to avoid that, what we can do is we can simply go ahead and create a document or data system in the sign, and it can be sent for approval to the finance department, where they can simply verify all the bills digitally and sign it out and send it to the payment department. So that is one other business case. And coming to other third business cases, like where we have uh, manufacturing organization, where there's a lot of transactions happening, and each transaction requires approval or the legal signature of authority, right? So in that case, we can go ahead and use this whole sign documentation, sign process, which eliminates the necessity of that approving authority to be physically present in the premise. So let us say there's an organization which is having like four different premises, and approving authority is not available in the premise four, while the document is in premise one, and an order has to be happened immediately. Okay, in that case, so we can go for this Zoho sign. So we'll take a look at the inbuilt integration. Let me take you through sign document one more time. Okay, so this Zoho sign is having the straightforward documentation. So we'll be coordinators will be sharing this documentation to you in the link. SDP analytics, bookings, calendar click, so integration task. Okay, so it's there. Zoho sign integration task. So the actions which can be done using Zoho sign integration task are like we can create a document, we can upload a document by ID, we can update a document, get the fields, download documents. So all this. So what we'll be using today is like we'll be creating a document using template, okay, and we'll be also getting the document by ID so that we can track what is happening to that document from creator itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and start building a system. Okay, so let me close the unwanted tabs. Okay, so this is completed, right? Yeah, and let me go ahead and create a new function. Okay, so let me call it as assign of creation, and taking the name as default, bring it as void. Uh, so let me just zoom in. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to pick up a template from Zoho Sign. So here under templates, we can see I have configured a few templates already. So we have a few offer internship offer letters. We have payment voucher. So we will be taking this payment voucher example. Okay. So the way we can configure a template is like we can go and create a template. We can upload a document whichever we want to be used as a template. So the one thing which we should take care while we are uploading a document is that we should have appropriate spaces while we are creating the while we are putting the fields to which we are sending the data. Okay, so we should be careful of that. Without the space, the well, if you are putting the fields, it will be like the orientations will not be there. So here we can go ahead and upload a document. Let me just put a sample document. Okay, under the images, and I will just take this image. So I have taken the image. So the document can be either image or PDF or whatever format which is supported. And then we have to go ahead and add the role and the email of the person who is approving. So let me put the role as manager and email to be my email ID. Splendor.sr@zoho.com. Okay. So there are four different options while we are adding a person. So either the person needs to sign this document or this person receives the document, signing the copy once it has been signed, and either this person has to sign it in person. Okay, they have to go to that particular office and they have to sign it, and this can also be done electronically, or this person is just approver. This person or the document will be sent to this person for approval. Once the approver approves, and then it goes for whomsoever concerned to sign. Okay, for now I am just keeping it as need to sign. Okay, and if we click on continue, we'll be given the option to place the fields wherever we want. So Zoho Sign has these fields. Just let me. I, I don't know why my scroll is not working. Okay, so these are the field types. Okay, so I have zoomed out. So Zoho Sign has the field types like signature, stamp, full name, sign, date, and all. And there are two kinds of fields in Zoho Sign. Okay, one is to be pre-filled by you, and another one is to be filled by the person to whom we are sending. So if I say signature, and mostly the signature is to be filled by the person who is sending. Okay, And if I'm merging a data, so let me say I'm putting it as full name, and this full name is going to be come from my creator's application. Okay, then I have to mark. Okay, then I have to mark this field as to be filled by me. Okay, so here we can see be filled by you. Okay, so once I okay, I'll just delete this field and refill by you, and I'll add a full name. So we can see if this field is going to be populated from a data source, okay, and this is not to be changed, is not going to be changed in the front end or the person who is signing, then we can put it as pre-filled by you. Okay, and let me just so that is it. So once we save this template, it will get saved. I'll just save it. Okay, so it is taking the name of the file which we uploaded as default. So I'll be using this voucher detail. Okay, let me just edit this. So this is a just let me go to template one more time and I'll edit it. So this is a payment voucher image which I have uploaded, and we can see I have configured the recipients and the various fields which are required has been configured already. Okay. So if I see this is a field which is to be pre-filled, so you can see the recipient is pre-filled, and the signature field has been configured to be filled by the person who is receiving. Okay, and we can also say whether the field is mandatory or not, and we can also give the field name. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a document using this template and send it over fast signature. Okay, so for which we'll be following this document create using template. Okay. So this is an example which has been given. So I'll be following this example, and this link will be shared to you by our co-trainers. So here we can see we have to construct the field data, and we have to construct the action map, and we have to pass these values as parameters to the integration task. So let us get started. We'll be executing them one by one. Okay. So before we doing that, we have to get the action ID. So this action ID is nothing but this one. So just let me just edit it. So this section is the action ID. So far we are configuring only one person, right? So there's only one action ID. If we have more than one person configured, so I can go ahead and add this, and I can give multiple people, and everyone will have their own action ID. So this section has to be taken. So first step which we are supposed to get is to get this action ID. Okay. So let me go ahead and get the action ID first. So to get the action ID, the documentation. Let me just go ahead and so first we have to go ahead with get document by ID. So this get document by ID gives you the details about that document. It will have the document ID as well. So let me just go ahead and create this function. So let us set document ID is equal to, sorry, we have to get the action ID. I said document ID. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry. It is action ID. Okay, so the document ID is the ID of the template. So I have got this template in the edit mode, and the URL I can see the template ID, and let me put this as a repeater. Okay, so once we get the template ID, let us go ahead and write template details is equal to Zoho Zoho dot sign dot get document by get template by ID, and it is okay. It is asking for big integer. So big integer is the document ID, which is the template ID which I just got, and info uh, template details. Let's save. I hope there's no error. And let me just execute it. I have been given with all the details of this template. Let me just copy it. Get into JSON beautifier. So JSON beautifier is a system where we can view complex JSON data as a simple one. Okay, so we can see this data has been restructured and given to us. So our document ID is under the templates. Under templates, this is the second level. Okay, under templates to find the third level, so it is not here. Okay, so it's okay. So under templates and under actions, we have our action ID. Okay, so it is the second first level is templates, and the next key which we are supposed to traverse is the actions. Under actions, we have the action ID of this particular template. So let's get into the code. Close template dot determine. So the dot get JSON. Get JSON of the first key is going to be templates, and save. If I execute it, okay. Let me just copy this. Copy it, and so now we have traversed through the first key. The second one, as we discussed, is going to be actions. It's action. So we have to traverse through this key. Templates again dot get JSON of actions, save, and if I execute it again, so we can see we have got all the values inside this key, and let me just beautify. Now we have this action ID, right? So let me just get JSON. Those actions dot get JSON action ID. If I execute it, we can see we have got the action ID out. I'm sure it's 45014. Okay, so we have got the action ID. Let me just store this action ID into a variable. So action ID is equal to. Okay. So now we got the action ID. Let us go ahead and start building our fields based on the documentation. Okay, so we have to create a map. So sign. Let me go ahead and continue. So the fields which we have are like so we have date field, we have voucher number, ledger account. So it's like the date type you can see. So this is a single line field, and I think all these fields are single line fields. We also have multiple field types as well, and this one is a signature field. Okay, so we have multiple types of fields, but I have configured only single line fields here. Okay, and let us go ahead and build our data structure. Uh, so first we have to, as per the documentation, create instance document. First we have to create the action map and field text data. Okay, so let us create action map is equal to map. Just let me just copy paste this from this here. Okay, let me just copy paste it. And yesterday, I remember someone asking about the syntax of delit, right? So here in this all these programs, you could have seen I'm not following any particular syntax, but delete itself understands the syntax and compiles the program. So that is how advanced deluge is. Okay. Is it like, data again, noise, it's in different color. Good. And we have got the field data and field text data. And based on the documentation, we have to construct all the fields into this field text data, right? So let me get this on. So field text data output, we have to get the key value pass. So this is the field name of the sign field. So the date, this is the field name, and let me just paste it here. So the date is going to be today's date, which is 4/3/2021, 04/03/2021. Okay, and let us go ahead with the other values as well. We'll populate only four fields. We'll populate only these four fields. Okay, let's not go ahead full. We may run out of time. Okay. So the next one is like the next field is voucher, and let's put the voucher number to be HS 2234. Okay. And the next field is going to be ledger field. Okay. For which L2234. Okay. And the next field which you are going to do is to be the accounts field. So and let the accounts be manufacturing. Okay, so is there any other fields mandated? So, okay, we'll populate the other fields with the default value which we have populated. Okay, and so we have constructed the field types, and and once we have constructed the field data type, we have to pass this as a value to the action map. Okay. Action map is equal to, let me just copy it as it is. So these keys, right? So these keys are stable. We will not be able to changing it. So that is why I have not changed any of these keys. So the keys of the field names are being changed because they are the names which I said while I created those fields. But these fields which are like the field data, field text data, and all are like static key values, and we are not going to change it. Okay. And so I got this field data being populated, and then is the action map. So this action map is the map which will contain the details of the people who are going to be involved in the signing process. So if I go back, I edit it. You can see this add recipients, right? So this is the section where these data will be passed on to creator as action map. Okay. Let me go ahead and copy the action map. This action map. Since we are having only one level of approval configured, we'll be using only one action map here. Okay, and so the first one is recipient name. Put it as Surendra, and the recipient's email, surendra.sr@zoho.com. So the action type, I'm going to sign the action ID. So we got the action ID already here, right? So let us get the action ID here. Action ID, and we'll leave the role as empty. So let it be any role here. And next, we have to give this as element to the field list. So I'll just copy this, and this action map has been added as an element to the field list. And again, we are going to put the action maps and templates. So I think up to this, there's no change. So the reason why I'm copying and pasting is like this data structure is not changed much unless or until we want to specifically change the name of the collection. So here I have given each action map, right. So we can say action map 1, action map 2, and those values has to be populated appropriately. Since I'm following the documentation as it is, I have not changed those names. But please don't change any of these key values, okay, inside this one. So the recipient name and these are the key values which are preset by Zoho sign itself. Okay, we are not having authorization to change them. And so we have constructed the data successfully, and then comes the creating the documentation, creating the document. So let us say response is equal to uh, Zoho dot sign dot create document if I'm not wrong. Create using templates. Okay, create using template. So we have to give the doc ID and the map. The map is the parameters. So let me just stay close and let us execute. So let us go to Zoho sign under documents, all documents. The last document which has the merged tenant document. Let me execute this function and see if we have just info this as well. Info response. So the reason I'm infoing this response is like I'm planning to build one more module which can tag the status of the document from creator itself. Okay, and if I execute it, give it a second. Okay, so we have got success, and it's saying the status is in progress. So let me go ahead and reload. There should be a new payment voucher document created. So here we can see the payment voucher document being created. Okay. So now we'll be having the ID of this document, right? So here, if I'm not wrong, so let me copy this, get back to JSON beautifier. If I beautify, it is going to say, let me just open this document, 64031, right? Just copy this. We can manually find it out just for time concern. We are almost nearing lunch, so I'm just copying and pasting. So we can see it is in the request ID. Okay, so it is the first. It is in the second level of key. So the first key is zoom out. So the first level of key is request, and let me do the get JSON close response dot get JSON, and again dot get JSON. after request, we can control it. So, and then comes the request ID. Okay, so control save, and we have to get one more document which is in the name of payment voucher, and we'll be using that document ID to check the status. Okay, control save, and we can execute it. So we can see we have got a new document ID, and if I reload, there's one more document called payment voucher. Okay, so let me just go ahead and sign this document. So let me get into my mail. Uh, I'm not sure this is the one. Let me just sign the document. I agree and I sign. Okay, and sign. So finish it. Okay. So let me reload it. Okay, so this document has been signed. Okay. So now if I go ahead and check the status of that document, so let me write a new function for that. So I'm copying this document ID, closing it, done. Create a new function. We call it as check status. And I'm creating a function. Check status, and just I'll paste the document ID here for reference. So the for this, documentation will be following is like get document by ID. Okay, so here it is. So let me just get the document by ID. So it is supposed to be like Zoho.sign.get document by ID. So let me like document ID is equal to uh, sorry, response is equal to Zoho dot sign dot get document by ID, and that's doc ID. So from here, I'll say info response, execute it. Okay, so we got the details of the document, but we need to get only the request, right? So what we have to do is to just okay, it's okay. We'll work with the JSON beautifier itself. Control A, V, beautify. Let me just. I just need the request status, so which is under request and request status. So let me go ahead and close. Response dot get JSON. Request dot again get JSON of request status. Okay. So request status, and now if I save and execute it, I'll be given the status of this signed document. So we can call these custom functions in a custom action button in the report, and we can directly check the status of the document. Or we can also run a scheduler which will just fetch the document status and update it at a given particular time. So these are the capabilities which we can do. So it's like even though we are operating or we are doing the document signature from Zoho sign, we it's like we can do all the processes which are required from Zoho Creator itself. We don't have to even worry about logging into Zoho sign and check unless until it is mandated to us. All the process which we are following can be directly done from Zoho Creator itself. Okay, so that is how we can integrate Zoho Creator with other products of Zoho and automate them. and we can enhance the capabilities of creator. So we can so right now we saw how we can generate new documents using Zoho Creator, and how these documents can be sent for signature, and the signature status of the document, how we can track them, and so and so. So these are the functionalities which can be obtained by integrating Zoho Creator with the inbuilt integration task. We are almost at the close of our lunch session. So we'll be closing now, and after the lunch, we'll be taking a look at how we can implement Creator's V2 API, which is like uh, which is used when we are trying to integrate Zoho Creator with applications which are not under the same account. So the moment when I say same account, it's like most of the products which are available in the same account are single sign-on. If you can go to accounts.zoho.com, we'll be able to see the whatever documentation we have over here. Okay, so that's fine. So just give me 1 second. So this is the point where we actually signature happens, and all the applications which are under this particular login will be considered to be under the same account. So for the integration tasks which we did, had all the applications under the same account, right? So now after we'll try to understand how we can integrate applications under different accounts. Okay, probably we'll construct two different applications from Creator itself. One in this test account, and another one is one in our different account, and we'll be trying to sending data from create from this test account to the other account, and vice versa. So thank you guys. So with this, we'll be breaking for lunch now, and we'll be reconvening back by 2:30. Okay, so thank you. So today morning we discussed a lot in detail about the inbuilt integration task, right? So the inbuilt integration task is like we have two different applications in the same account, and we want them to work together. Then we go for our inbuilt integration task. But what if both the accounts are in different application, both applications are in different accounts? Let us say Manoj is having Zoho Creator and Abhinaya is having Zoho Desk. And how can we enable integration between them so the inbuilt integration task won't work? Since both these applications are under different accounts, right? So in that case, what we do is we can establish a, V2 API integration. So the V2 API integration is a security system where we, instead of passing on the username and passwords, we'll be passing on the credentials like client ID and client secret and all. And this gives us even more secure. So even if these credentials are compromised, the person who is holding these credentials will not be able to get their hands on the actual credentials of the user, right? And V2 allows us even more granular. Is someone saying something? Okay. So V2 API provides us with even more granular control over the records and actions. So we saw the scopes being defined, right? So in the inbuilt integration task, the same way we also have the scopes to be defined while we are using V2 API integration. Okay. The scopes differ from service to service, and based on the actions which we are trying to do using these integrations, the scopes again differ. So in this screen, what you are looking at is a sample structure of how the API works. Okay. So API has a client and a database. The software platform in which this client and database talk to each other is called the API, which is Application Programming Interface. And so this API provides like the data has been transferred in form of packets. Okay, instead of transferring, giving direct connection to the database to the client, we give the information which is only required by the client, and then the received information has been processed by client browser, and the info has been displayed to the end user. So this kind of request-based transaction is known as the application programming interface, and every API call we make fetches the data from the database. Okay. So even today morning we saw the integration task is a wrapped up form of API call. So that's what we saw today, right? So even though we are saying Zoho.sign.create, Zoho.this.create. So what it is actually doing is like making a API call to Zoho desk and sending the data from Zoho creator to Zoho desk, thereby creating a record in this in that particular application. So that is about the APIs. And before getting into the creators work 2.0, let us understand a few concepts about the various terminologies which has been used in Zoho V2 API. Okay, uh, just give me 1 second. Okay, so this is the procedure. This is the process in which the AV to API works. So first one is there's a resource owner or the user who is requesting or who is authorizing the client application to access the protected resource. The protected resource is available in the resource server. So the client application initiates authentication request to authentication server who is being returned with the authentication code. Using this authentication code, the client application again requests for access and refresh token. And with valid access token and refresh token, the client will be able to access the data. Okay. So this is the actual process. Okay. So now we have a lot of terminologies over here. And let us go a step back and understand what are these terminologies. Okay. And then we may understand this V2 API even better. Uh, the first one is the protected resource. The protected resource is the data or the information which is available in our server. Okay. So this resource is not accessible to everyone. It's like it's our resource, and so it is protected in nature. And then comes the resource server. Resource server is the server which holds the protected resources. Okay, and then comes the resource owner. Resource owner is the person who owns the resource server. The client is the application which is trying to access the protected resource. For example, let us take the example of Make My Trip and Indigo Flight. Okay, so the Make My Trip is a application which gives you access to various applications, various flight travel manifest to the so that you can compare and book a ticket, right? But the Indigo is the Indigo's database is the one where all the data regarding Indigo flights and ticket fares are being resided. So what the Make My Trip is doing is they are making a API call to Indigo flight. The data has been retrieved and it has been processed and shown to user, right? So in this case, the protected resource is the data which is available in Indigo server. Okay, and the resource server is the Indigo server which is hosting the data, and the resource owner is the Indigo company. Okay, so coming to client, the Make My Trip application, which is making the API call to access that protected resource, is the client. So the India website or a mobile application, whichever is trying to make that access that data is the client. So this client has to be authorized so that they can go ahead and access the data which is available in the protected server, right, or the resource server. So for that, the system will generate a client ID and a client secret. So this client ID and client secret will be used to generate authentication code, and this authentication code is the one which defines the actions which can be done. So while we are generating a client authentication code, we'll be also defining the scope, which means the actions which we are allowing this particular client to do. So based on these actions, and based on these scopes, the client will be provided with the authentication code, and using this authentication code, the client is again supposed to contact the authentication server for an access token and a refresh token. So this access token and refresh token are how to say, header security are the credentials which we are supposed to pass while we are making the API call. So the access token is the actual parameter we pass in the header while we are making the API call, and the access token is having a limited validity. Okay, so the validity of access token is 3,600 seconds, which is 1 hour. So if we want to continue the access to that protected resource, we have to go ahead and establish a method to refresh the access token every 1 hour, right? So that is why we get the refresh token, and using the refresh token, client ID, client secret, and the scopes, we will be able to refresh the access token. Okay, and then comes the scope. As we all discussed in the morning session, the scope is the control method, or the pathway which allows us to control the actions which has been initiated by the client application. Okay, so now again let us go back into the flow chart and understand what how this API works, right? So there is a resource owner. The resource owner is authorizing the client application to access the resource server. So the client application for the first time is getting the authentication code from the authentication server. So there is an authentication request sent to the authentication server. So the authentication server in turn returns with the authentication code, and using this authentication code, again, the client application is asking for access token and refresh token, which is provided back to the client by the authentication server. And using a valid access token, okay, so only with the valid access token, the resource server will allow the client application to access the data which is available in the resource server. So the reason why we are going for an expiring access token is like, let us say by accident or by misfortune it happens, our access token is getting compromised. Okay, the maximum duration for which our data might get compromised is like only 1 hour. After that, the access token gets expired and it's of no use, right? And even if the access token is getting compromised, we have the scopes defined, and it's like the client will not, that access token will not be able to do any operations which we didn't allow to do. Okay, so that is how the Oauth 2.0 works. And to say and we all know Zoho Creator is very easily integratable with any system which is having a REST API endpoint, right? And similarly, whatever component which you are creating in Zoho Creator is having its own dynamic REST API endpoint associated to it. For example, so you can say this is a URL of a particular form, and this example. So here you can see https creator.zoho.com/API/v2. So this is the endpoint, and then comes the account owner's ID. So this JSON18 is the account owner ID, and the Zilker store is the application name, and /form/the form's link name. So this is the structure in which the dynamic API of any component is being called. So if it's a report, it will be I think it's a view slash that report name. We'll be taking a detailed look at that at the upcoming part of this session. So now let us go ahead, go get into documentation and find out how we can implement create a V2 API. Okay, so let me get into documentation. So create a V2 API. So this is the documentation, and our co-trainers will be sharing this documentations to you in the chat window. And so there are three types of APIs. One is the data API, another is the file API, and another one is the meta APIs. Okay, so these are the three types of APIs. So let us start with the step-by-step process of implementing the Oauth V2. So the first step is to register a client. Okay, so the registering a client is that is a basic step. So we will be saying this is where we will be provided with our client's ID and client set. This is where we will be provided with our client ID and client secrets. Okay, and this client has to be registered with the account in which the data is being receiving. So, for example, this is my test account. Oh, where is the test account? Okay. So this is the account from where I'm going to fetch the data. So let me create a new application. Just give me 1 second. I'll close all these unwanted ones. Let me create a new application for this V2 demo. New application. Let us call it as V2 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 V2E. Okay, so I'm creating a new application, and I want my application to transfer data to this particular form in creator. So let me say v2 form. Just give me 1 second. Close this off. So we have a client application, and so the first step is to register a client. So since I am accessing the data from this account, I have to make sure that I'm registering client under this account itself. So for which we have two options. Either we can go to this link which has been given in the documentation, or you can directly go ahead and say apiconsole.zoho.com. So apiconsole.zoho.com. The moment we get in, we will be given the list of all the clients which we have registered. Okay. If you want to register a new client, so we have to go and add a new client. So we are given with 5 different types of clients. One is the client-based application, another one is the server-based application, mobile-based, non-browser-based, and self-client. So the server-based one is the HTTP request-based client. So we'll be registering a server-based application for our demo. And the client name, let us put it as V2 V2E. Okay, and then you have to give the homepage URL. The homepage URL should be a secured URL, so it should be https://. Okay, but it's not mandatory that it should be a valid URL. So you can see the URL which I have given is like https://manoj.com. Okay, but it's a secure URL, so I have given it. Let me give the redirect URL as well. /home. If I go ahead and create now, I'll be provided with the client ID and client secret. So using this client ID and client secret is what we are going to transfer data from data to creator. Okay, so let us first establish this setup from Postman, and then we will be moving into Deluge. Okay, and for those who are new with Postman, Postman is a API testing tool. So we can test our APIs and check for the results which we are getting. Okay, let me just So and okay, so let me create a new request. So the first step in the documentation is to register client, and the second step is to request for authorization. So the request for authorization, this is the URL structure in which we have to make the authorization request. It is accounts.zoho.com/or/v2r, and the response type is always code. It is a static one. We have to pass a client ID here. We have to pass the scope for which we are creating this access token. We have to go for the redirect URL, and we have to tell the access type. Okay. So let me give you a few information before we proceed. So this API endpoint, right? HTTP account.zoho.com. So it is not .com for everyone. Based on the data center in which your application is running, this endpoint differs. So in your application, if you take a look at the URL, if you see accounts API console.zoho.com, it is in US data center. So you can use the same URL. If it is like IN or EU or any other data center, we have to use that appropriate extension over here. We have to point our API endpoint to that particular data center, right? So the second one is the access type. So the access type, since if you set the access type as offline, you'll be provided with the access token and a refresh token. Okay. So if you are if you set this as online, you'll be provided only with the access token and no refresh token. So the difference in getting a reference token and not getting a reference token is like if you think the data transfer or the data access has to be done only for a limited period of time, let us say only for 1 hour. So the online mode of API generation will work. So it's like you will get only the access token, and you can go ahead and use that access token to do the access data access as long as the token is valid. Okay, and after 1 hour the access token gets expired and we will not be able to continue the process. But in case we decide to give a particular client application a continuous access to our data, we have to go for offline mode of token generation. Okay, so let me just copy this URL as it is. I copied it. I'm going to the same application from where my resource server is there. Okay, so I'm pasting it. So the first one I have to pass on is the client ID. Client ID is here. I'm just copying my client ID, and let me just replace the client ID here. And then comes the scope, redirect URI, and access type. So the redirect URI I can get it here. The redirect URI is the authorized redirect URI which we gave when we created the client. So this is the redirect URI, and here comes the scope. So scope is the action which we want to perform. So we have to find out what scope we want to do. And so let me say I want to create a record in our creator form from Postman. So this is a form. Let me say cultus data. Let's not call this data. So the JSON structure also has it. So let it say name. Okay, I want to pass on. I want to feed value to this particular field. So getting into the documentation, if I go for data API and add record. So this is the process which we are going to do, and for this, the scope which we want to do is to Zoho creator.form.create. Okay, so this is the scope which we have to mention. So only using this scope, you will be able to create a record in a creator form. Okay, so let me get that and place that in the scope. Okay, so if you want to add more than one scope, let us say I want also to read the data from that form, we can go ahead and apply a comma and add as many scopes as we want. So let me go ahead and say get records in a quick view or get record in detailed view, and the scope is ocreator.report.read. Okay, so let me just copy this as well and paste it here. So now we have constructed our authorization system. So now we have constructed the URL which will provide us with the authentication code. And let me just press enter. The system is asking whether I'm allowing this client application, or whether I'm allowing any client application who is going to use my code to create a record in my form and to view the records which are present in the report. So once I click on accept, I'll be given a code in the URL. So where I'll be given my redirect URL and slash code. And this code is valid only for 1 minute, or once it will try to generate a access token and reference token. Okay. So what we will do is we will get the third step ready, come back here, and then we will generate the code so that the code is not getting expired before we get our step 3 ready. Okay. Uh, so let's get into the documentation and we go for step 3, step generating the tokens. So this is the step where we'll be generating the access token and reference token. Okay. Using the access code, we'll be generating the using the access code, we'll be generating the access token and reference token, and using which we will be able to add or remove do the access which has been given to that particular client. So this is the sample response. We'll be getting the access token, reference token, we'll be getting the API domain, token type, and the time in which it expires. So let me just copy this, and once again we have to make sure that we are adding the right data center extension here. Mine is in USB-C, so I have no problem using this endpoint as it is. But if yours is in a different data center, please use the appropriate data centers extension. Okay, so let me go ahead and paste it here. So post request, first one, the grant type is always authorization code, it's fine. Then I have to give the code. This code will be generated from step 2, and then we will be generating the client ID, redirect URL, and client secret, which we can get it from here. So this is a redirect URI, and we get the client ID here. We get the client secret here. So now we have made sure we have all these things, and we now go ahead and execute the code. I click on accept. In the URL, you can see after my redirect URL, it is having the code being generated. I'll just copy it. I copied it, and we go here and paste, and we make the post request. We have been provided with the access token and reference token. So let me try to zoom it in. So here we can see we have been provided with the access token and reference token. So right from this step, we can do the functionalities which we want to do. So if the we have given two scopes, right? One is to create a record in the form, and another one is to read the records from the form, right? And so using this access token also, we can go ahead and start doing those operations. But we'll also take a look at the step 4, which is regarding refreshing the access token which we generated just now. Okay, so going over here and refreshing the access token. Let me copy the URL as it is, and again the endpoint has to be customized based on the data center in which your account is in. Let me copy it. I copied it, and I'll make one more post request. So first one we have to pass on is the client ID. We will get the client ID here. And the next one is the client secret. Okay, so before that, there's the reference token. So this reference token is the token which we have generated from the previous step. Here you see the reference token, right? So this is the token which we have generated from the previous step. We copy that and replace the reference token here. So if I make the post request, I'll be given with a new access token. Okay. So this reference token doesn't expire, so you can generate any number of reference token in using this. Sorry, you can generate any number of access token from this reference token, and there can be only 20 access token. I think. I'm not sure of the number. There can be only n number of live access token for a particular reference token. Okay, it's I'm I think our co-trainers will be confirming you regarding the number of live access tokens per reference token in the chat. Okay, so now yes, we have got our access token. So using this access token as the security parameter, we can send or read data from this form. So let me go to the documentation again. So again, we are going to add records. So this is our API structure. So this is the structure which we took a look at here. We can see the base URL and the account owner's ID and the application's name and then the form's link name. Okay, so the same. You can see the base URL slash API slash v2 and then the account owner's name, application's link name slash form slash form's link name. So let me just copy this and we'll replace them based on the requirements. So let me create one more post request. Since I am sending data, I'm making the post request here. So the base URL, right? So let me get the base URL from here, https zoho.com. Okay. So if yours is in a different DC, please do replace this with a different data center. So let me just paste it here. V2 API account owner's name. For this account, my account ID is surendra.sr plus T0, which you can get it from the URL itself. So if you can take a look at the URL, it will be https creator.zoho.com slash app builder slash the account owner's ID slash the application's name slash your form's link name. Form builder and then your form's link name. So I'm copying the account owner's ID here. Let me just paste it here. And then I have to pass on the app link name. Right? So going back to the URL, the application's link name is v2e2e. So this is the application we started, right? So this is the application's link name. And if you can see the application's actual name is different from application's link name. So the application's actual name is v2 capital E2E, but the link name is v2 small e2e. Okay. So we have to get the application link name rather than the actual name. So let me just replace it. Okay, and then comes the form's link name. The form's link name is v2 form. Okay. Again, the form's name and form's link name may be different based on your settings. Normally, it will be the spaces will be replaced with underscore. So you can see v2 space form, but it is v2 underscore form. So please use the form link name here. And so this is the API endpoint. This is how we create the API endpoint. So this is up to this is the endpoint, and then comes the account owner's ID, then comes the form application link name, and then comes the form's link name. Okay, and the next one which we are supposed to send over. Just give me a second. I'll also access the application. So there is no data, right? So we'll be sending that sending the data. So the next one is we have to send the authorization. Okay. So the authorization will be sent in the header. Um, in the header, I'll be sending authorization, and it is Zoho Auth token space the access token. Okay, so let me copy this. And paste it, space, and this access token has to be obtained from either here if you have not generated a new access token, or if you have generated a new access token, you can get that access token from the step 4. Since I generated a new access token, I'm copying it from step 4, copying it, and so now we have our header set up. We go for the body, and the body we have to structure it in this way. So the example you can see it has to be passed on as a collection. So first it has to be so if you are using a composite field, it has to be a collection of those fields, and then it has to be passed on to a value which is the field link name of that particular field. So let me start with it. So in the body section, I'll just say raw. So let's say data, and again we go for structure. Just give me 1 second. Okay. And so since we are having only one single line field over here, we'll find out the data structure in which we have to transfer the data. Here it's a single line field. So single line field is like we can just give that link name of that particular field in double quotes and the value. So let me just get the field link name here. So field link name is again name. Okay. So name, and I'm going to give the name as Surendra. And I don't think we need any comma since we are passing only one field value. Okay. So now let us go ahead and make the post request, and let us see the success. So we can see a success code of 3000. Okay. And if I go into live mode and if I refresh, you can see a record has been generated from generated in creator, and this data has been transferred from Postman. So it is like an entirely different service, right? So the data which we generated or transferred from Postman is being pushed to creator, for which we have used V2 API. So this access token which we have passed on, right? So this access token will be valid only for an hour, and after an hour, if we decide to send the data, we will not be able to send. Okay, and even if you, before an hour we decide to revoke the access, right? So we have the option to that as well. So if I get into the documentation, we have the option to revoke the access to a refresh token. So let us say we have given a continuous access to a client, and after some point we decide, okay, so we don't want this client to access our application anymore. So in that case, we can go ahead and revoke the access token. Let me just copy the endpoint revoke token, and then we have to pass on the first token. So let me just post the request, and this is the endpoint, and we have to post the first token, which is here. Let me just copy this first token, and so if I send it, we will be getting a status as access. Okay. So now we have revoked the access token. So let us go ahead and try this same process. So we said this access token is valid for 1 hour, right? So a couple of minutes back, we got a success message. So if I try to send the same API call again, if I send it, you can see there's a invalid auth token error. So the reason being, we revoke the access to that particular refresh token. Okay. So now we have implemented creators V2 API using Postman. Now let us find out how this same can be achieved using deluge scripting. Okay. So there are multiple ways we can do. We can either create all these things in the form, fetch the data, and then update it. But for this demo purpose, we'll be like writing straight custom functions and fetching the data and transferring it out. Okay. So for this, we'll be taking two applications in two different accounts. So we'll close the Postman for now. Okay. Let us go ahead and create two applications. One I will have it in my test account, another I will have it in my which I'll have active. Okay, I'll have one in this account. Okay, I'll probably delete this application later. So here I'll create a new application. I call it as E2E day 4. Okay, so I'll create so right now we can see these two applications are in different logins. So one is in zttpoc@gmail.com and another one is in surendra.sr+t0@zoho.com. So even though both of them are creators, but both of them are in two different accounts. So what we'll do is we'll figure out a way to send data from one creator form to the other creator form. Okay. So this will be the client application, and I will make this as the resource server. Okay. So let me just create a form here, blank form. We call it as resource. So we will be trying to create a record in this particular form. So we'll add another single line field here, and we call it as uh, data field. Okay, so we are going to create a record. So I'll name this field as a data field, and so we can see there's no record right now available. So let us go ahead and start doing the same process which we did with this account. So the first step is to register a client, right? So let me go ahead and create the functions. I'll create a new function, call it as step 3. Step 3 is the where we get the access and refresh token. So let me create this function. Just, so getting into documentation, the first step is to register the client, right? So since which one? So since this is the resource server, what I'm going to do is I'm going to register a client from here. So let us say API console.zoho.com. So it is mandatory that we register a client with the place where we are having our resource server. Right. So last time we had a resource server with this form. So we created we registered the client here. So now we are using this account as the resource server. So we have to register a client here. Okay, and I will be swiping right and left a bit many more times so that we can understand. So in case you have any confusions, please do reach out to us in the chat. I'll try to slow my pace. Okay. So I'm creating a client here. So let me put the client name as V2 API, and let's put the homepage URL as manoj.com and the redirect URL to be manoj.com/home. Let me create it. Uh, okay, so before I proceed, I would like to know whether I'm going in the right pace. Should I reduce my pace, or like is my pace okay? Because it's going to be like heavy coding, and I would like to get your suggestion. So is my pace okay, or like should I reduce my pace? Okay, thank you, Sarabha. So I'll continue with the same pace. Okay, fine. So this is the step one. We have registered our client successfully. This is the client details. The name is V2 API. We have the homepage URL and the redirect URL. So we created, and we have the client ID and client secret generator. So going to step two, we have to request for authorization code. Here, let me copy this endpoint. Again, we have to make sure we are giving the proper API endpoint. My account again is in US data center, so it's I'm using the endpoint as it is. Please use appropriate endpoints of yours, and pass on the client ID. Let me copy the client ID and replace it here. And we have to give the redirect URI as well, client details and redirect URI, copy and paste it. And then comes the scope. Okay, the scope is we are going to add records to this resource server. So the scope for that is to okay, so here it is, so creator.com.create. So we'll work with only one scope as of now. Okay, so let me just replace the scope. Okay, hit enter. System asks whether I am authorizing this particular client to add record to this form. So I'll hold it here. So we'll prepare the third step. Then we'll come back and execute this code and generate it. Okay. So step three is to generate the step three is to get the refresh and access token, right? So getting step three, generating the tokens. So we will be having our API endpoint with all these parameters. So let's go ahead and build a function in Deluge. So going into workflow, functions, I create a new function. Oh, I created it here. Right. So the reason why I'm creating it here is it is the responsibility of the resource owner to supply the client with the refresh or access token and client ID and client secret. So it is that is why I'm building the I'm making this function in the resource side. So let me say step three. Okay, let me create the function. Uh, So the first one is to get the base URL or endpoint. Base URL is equal to and from the documentation, I'll get the documentation as it is. But if you have a different data center, please change it accordingly. Okay. Okay, so I have this is my base URL. So there are two ways in which we can pass parameters to a URL. So either we can add question marks here and continue giving our parameters continuously, or we can construct a map and use the map as a let's say use a map as a parameter request. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll create a map. So let us say um, param as a map, and we put param dot put. We put the value. The first value which we are supposed to pass is uh, code. So here we can see we have to pass the code, right? So let us pass the code here. Code, and the code is it's yet to be generated. So we have not generated the code yet, right? So since the code is having only a validity of 60 seconds, so we are not generated. If we are not able to complete the entire typing process within 60 seconds, the code will get invalid, and we have to generate the code one more time. So that is why I have not generated the code yet. We'll generate it at the end, and then param dot put. We go for the next one is we have to go for the client ID. Let me get the client ID here. Client ID is, and then we go for the next parameter, which is the client secret. Put client secret, and the client secret is going to be here. Let me just copy and paste it here, and around that put redirect URL. Okay. And, client ID, client secret, and redirect URI. Redirect URI will give the same redirect URI which we gave for our client details. And so next one, we have to pass this on client type equal to authorization code. Put client type is equal to, it's a static value. We just pass it as authorization code. If you feel this constructing map and then passing on is a tedious process, we can simply go ahead and construct everything in the query parameter is just by putting question marks. The same way what we have got here. So we can see it's the API endpoint, and then after that, it's every parameters passes question mark separated by ampersand. So this is how we normally pass parameter in the URL itself. And now I'm showing you how we can construct a map and send it over. Okay, and the access type. Okay, the access type was set in the earlier. I think I didn't set access type is set as offline. Okay, fine. So we have to make sure of that. If it's not set by default, the system will take the access type as online. Okay. Uh, so now we have to make a post request. So the request type is post. So let me get response is equal to from the post URL, and the base URL is base URL, comma, body parameters param. So this param is a body map in which we are passing all the parameters. So now let us go ahead and generate the code and paste it over here and make the API call. Let me zoom it out. So I'll be just be fast. So let me accept it. We can see in the URL and provided with the code. I'm just copying the code here. Just copying it, and I'll be pasting it in the code. Control V, save, and execute. Oh, great. I forgot to info, so now we have to generate a new code. Info response. I'm really sorry. We'll generate a new code one more time. Let me check if this works. Okay, let me check if this is a new code. If not, I'll just reproduce the step 2. Okay. Save and execute. Okay, voila. So I got the access token and refresh token as a response. Okay, so let me paste it. So we can see we got the access token. Okay, since I used the same code twice and it has given me only the access token. Okay, so probably we'll reuse the step two, getting into the client. Uh, Settings enable. Okay, just give me 1 second. We'll work with the new client. So I would like to show you how we can also refresh the access token, right? So I'll create a new client, new client, and manoj.com. I'll create a new client. So the reason is I already given access to that to the whole client, and I don't know how I have to go back and debug it. So I'll just take the easy route here. Uh, so I'll replace it's the same one. I'll get the client ID and client secrets. This is the client ID. And this is the client secret. And then we have to go back and do the step two. I'll just do it in a speed fast manner. Let me just copy it, constructor.com, access check offline, and so client ID. Just let me copy it, and the client ID is going to be client ID and the redirect URI. And the scope is going to be Zoho.create. When you put the scope here, enter. Okay, I'm accepting it. Getting a new code. I have to put the one. This is the code. I'll just replace it. Save, and if I execute it one more time, I think we should be provided with the refresh token as well. Okay. So we are provided with the refresh token and access token. So if I zoom in, we can see we are provided with the access token, and also we are provided with the refresh token and the API domain. And we also have the token type and the expiry. So the important thing is from here, using this access token, we can start transferring data to that form. But I'll also show you how you can implement step 4 as well. So while we are implementing, or while we are giving access to a third party client or anyone, we have to share them with the client ID, client secret, and the refresh token in case we want them to access the data continuously for a longer time. And it is the responsibility of that client side to make sure the access token is being refreshed every 3600 seconds. Okay, so let me go ahead and get the refresh token, and using the refresh token, let us start sending data to this form. I'm just copying the refresh token. Okay, let me copy it, and so this is the step, right? So let me just create a new refresh token. So I'll delete this function. We'll say refreshing the access token. Create the design workflow functions. I'll create a function and I'll call it as refresh access token. So the reason is it is the responsibility of the client side to make sure the refresh token is access token is refreshed every 3000 seconds, 3600 seconds. So that is why we generated the refresh token from the client side, and we have shared this data to the client side. Okay, so sorry, we generated from the refresh resource owner side, and we are sharing it to the client side. I'm really sorry, I'm just stammering. Give me a couple of minutes, I'll just have some water. Okay, I'm back. So let me create this custom function, and now we are going to refresh the get a new access token with the refresh token. Okay, and so the step for that is okay, going here, going to step 4, refreshing the access token. Let me copy the URL. So this is the base URL. And let us go ahead and construct our parameters here. Okay, so params is equal to map, and the arm dot put. I want the first parameter we have to pass is the refresh token. Okay, since the refresh token is not having any validity, we can do this process as slow as possible. It's not as slow as possible. We can do it slow as well. Okay, I'm not saying as slow as possible. Uh, So let me just copy this one, and if I paste it here, okay, so we have 89 copied it, right? Okay, so we have the refresh token, and the next value which we are supposed to pass is the client ID, client secret, and grant type. Okay, so let me just copy this since it is a static. Type dot put grant type. We put it as refresh token. Uh, Param dot put since we have to pass the client ID and client secret, right? So let me just copy it as it is since we are using the same names. Okay. So we have request token, grant type, client ID, and client secret. So those are the 4 things: request token, client ID, client secret, and grant type. So let me make a post request. Okay. Uh, Response is equal to post URL of this URL param, okay, and info response. Save, execute it. We can see we have got the access token. So if you want only the access token, let me just paste it here. We can do a get JSON. Okay, let me copy it. Dot get JSON of access token. If I save and execute it one more time, we can see we are provided with a new access token. So the reason I'm doing it here, and for the previous one, I had to go back and create a new access code is like the code is valid only for 60 seconds or one try of creating the refresh access token. That's all, right? So if we go for another try, we will not. It won't allow us to do. It will say code invalid error. Okay. So let me go ahead and uh, we have this. Let me go ahead and save this value in a particular in any one of the variables. So let me say this as okay, let's say access. So now we have the access token ready, right? So I'll just remove this one. Okay, we have the access token, and now let us go ahead and start sending data to our creator application, right? So let us start with the endpoint. So getting into the documentation, the API endpoint is so this is how the endpoint is structured. We have to get the base URL, API/v2. Then we have to give the account owner name. Then we have to give the application link name. Then form link name and all. So let me just let me start with the endpoint. Endpoint is equal to okay, and I think it's going to be the same API/v2. Now it's different. I'll get the endpoint. And again, please make sure you are using the correct endpoint for your data center. I'll copy this and copy the entire thing. I'll just replace the value so that just copied it. Okay, and so the my account owner's ID is zcpp.doc. Okay, so this is the resource owner's ID, and I'm copying it and I'm placing it over here. And then we have the application's link name, which is into day 4. Okay, I'll just place it here. And then comes the form. Let's say the form, we have to go and create the orders. So we get the form link name. The form link name is resource. Okay, so let me just copy this form link name, copy it, and paste it over here. Save it, API endpoint, and we have the endpoint. The next one we have to construct is the header map and the body map. Since we have to pass the header authorization, we have to create the header map, and we also are mandated to send the body map. Okay, so let us go ahead and create the header map. H map is equal. Sorry, H map is equal to map. H map dot put the key is going to be authorization, and the value is going to be Zoho auth token space. Okay. And we have to pass the access token. So this access token is what we have got here, right? So right now, how I have designed it is every time I execute this function, first the step 4 gets executed. We have the refresh token. So a new access token gets generated, and this access token will be passed on as a value here. But in real time, what you can do is you can run a scheduler every hour, and using that scheduler, sorry. Using that scheduler, you can update a particular value in a form and fetch the data and send, so that you don't have to make a API call every time you want to execute that function. So fetching the data from the form is not going to cost us any API calls, right? So we have API limits. So right now I have designed it in such a way you can save the access token in a form and fetch the data back. Okay, so that is possible. So then we construct the body map. Body map is equal to a map. So I have only one single line field, right? So I'll construct the body map. So I'll go and I've got this. I'll get the field link name cancel. See, I'll get the field link name here. Okay, field link name. I'm copying it and body map dot put field link name and the value which I'm going to send. Let me send the name of myself, Surendra Manoj. Okay, so I'll send my name itself. And this body map again has to be structured in this manner. It was the postman. So this is the last post URL, right? Okay. So this is how the body should be. So now we have constructed this. So we'll be passing this as a value to another map. Okay. So we create data map, the map and data map output, and the key is going to be data, and the value is going to be this body map. Okay, so now like save. We have this one. Yeah, we have completed. I think we have completed our body map without any error. Yeah, so there's no error as of now. So let me go ahead and uh, make the post request. So response is equal to post URL of first I have to give the endpoint or the base URL. So we'll say endpoint, and then I'll pass the body map. Body map. So it's not the body map; it's a DMAP, right? So DMAP is the final body map, and then we have to pass the header map. So the sequence should be the same. First, we have to pass the URL or the API endpoint. Then we have to pass the body map, and only then we have to pass on the header map. So if we interchange the location of the body map and header map, the system will not be able to recognize and it will throw you an error. Okay. So when you are making the post URL, it's like the URL endpoint, and then we go for the body map, and then we go for the header map. So let me say info response. So let us okay, there's no error as of now, so let me just execute it, and no application in the name e2e day 4 e found. Okay, close the day 4 e. It's just day 4, right? Okay, I think I made a mistake here. Execute. API body is missing, either it is missing or incomplete. Okay, so fine. Uh, data body map. I'll just check the structure of data map. Okay, so it is the same. It is having the same. It's data feed and Surendra more than weight is throwing an error. Just give me 1 second. Okay, let me try this. Not to string. See, actually, the sometimes the problem what happens is like the data map it, considers these values as a parameter when we are passing the body. So sometimes the two string will help. Okay, just two string. So two string instructs the system that okay, I am passing a body as a string value and not as a parameter. So the reason is here you can see we did the same thing. So we passed the parameters as post-URL parameter, right? Map. So it took everything as a parameter and gave us the access token. And now I think it's saying, okay, this is not the parameters. Okay, so that's why it is saying the body camp is missing. So let me execute it again. Okay, we have got a success message. So it's like code 3000 and the data has been added successfully. If I go and refresh, we can see we have got a record being created. Okay, so this is how we can implement uh, V2 API using Deluge. Okay. Uh, so the things which we have to make sure is that the resource owner is the person who is providing the client ID, client secret, and the refresh token or the access token. Okay. So using that, if you are given a refresh token, the client is the one who is responsible to refresh the access token, which is what we have done over here. This part up to this we have got a new access token, and using this access token we are sending data. So while we created the scope itself, we defined this particular client is supposed to only create records in our server. So if I use this same refresh token to read a record, okay, the system will not allow. It will say invalid scope or invalid code. Okay. So this is how we implement the request token and access token in the system. Okay. And so, is there any doubts so far? I would like to okay, try to see this right face. Okay, fine. Thank you. So if we don't have any doubts, is it okay? Can we take a short 10 minutes break before we try to integrate Zoho Creator with Zoho Desk using V2 API? Is it okay? We have a short 10 minutes break because it is like a long coding. And I'm sure everyone will be tired. Okay, thank you guys. So we'll take a short 10 minutes break, and now it is 3:46. We'll be reconvening by 3:55. No, it's 3:47. We'll reconvene by 4 o'clock. Okay. We have only one more topic for today, so we'll be covering the middleware part tomorrow. The middleware, how we can use Python middleware to push data to creator. So that will be covered tomorrow. So we can take a break till 5 o'clock and we'll reconvene back. Okay. Thank you. So if you have any doubts, I'll be available. You can post them in the questions. I can probably answer them via voice. So I'll be typing it out. Okay. So we break for next 10 minutes. Thank you. Hi, we'll be reconvening the session in another couple of minutes. So let us start our session back. We have come to the last part of our Zoho Creator training series, training for today. So today, so far we have seen how we can implement Creator Oauth V2 from Postman, and how we can send data from one account to another account in Zoho Creator, right? So now what we are going to see is how we can integrate Zoho Creator with Zoho Desk, and both these applications being present in two different accounts. Okay, so let's get started with that. We'll be using the same two different accounts which we used for Creator. This is the resource server account. So it's the CVPOC. So this is the account to which we will be sending data. Let me get into desk.zoho.com. So we have our Zoho Desk account. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a ticket in this resource server from our normal application, right? So what we will be writing delete scripts for this. So this will be our client application, and this client application is going to generate or create a ticket uh, in the resource server. So let us get started. Let me create a. We'll be starting from the same. We have to start from registering the client. Let me get into the documentation first. Uh, so there's documentation. Okay, so Zoho Desk API documentation. So this is where we get, and as the getting started part is same for everything. So the auth process. So this is the same process which we followed. So we have the resource owner, which authorizes the client to access, and using the access code, the system again accesses for access and refresh token. And using the valid access token, the client application accesses the resource server, and the resource server in turn returns the client with the necessary data. So that is the same process. So we'll start with registering the client. Okay, so let me create a new client for this. Remove the old one since we are not using it. I'm adding a new server-based client. We call it as desk v2, and we paste a homepage URL, and read that URL to be the same and slash home. So let me create, and we have got a new client ID and client secret. Okay, and using this client ID and client secret, we will be uh, generating the refresh token, which allows the client to create tickets. So let's go to the next step. So making the authorization request. So this desk API documentation link will be shared to you in the chat. Please do follow. And the first initial steps, getting the refresh token and access token, will be the same as what what we did in the previous steps. The changes will happen only when we are creating the tickets. Okay, so I'll cruise through that faster. So let me get into construct Zoho.com special 2. So I'm copying this. Again, please use the appropriate extension for your data center. Okay, and I'm going over here. And the next one is a response type code, that is a stable or static value. And the client ID and the client secret has to be changed. So it's not the client secret. We have to pass a client ID, and I am passing the client ID from here. And next comes the scope. So tickets.create. I want to create a ticket, right? So let me go ahead and paste the scope to create the ticket. So when I am going to create the ticket, so what are tickets? Create a ticket. It's you open it in a new tab. I'll get the scope from there. And okay, so creating the ticket, the scope which is required to create a ticket is just.tickets.create. So let me just copy this scope, and we'll define the scope here. So if you want more than one scope to be done, so you can just place a comma and add as many scopes as you want. And next comes the okay, so scope has been given, then comes a redirect URI. Okay, so let me give the redirect URI, and so the client details, the redirect URI is here, and the access type. So we just take it, and the access type is going to be offline. Ampersand the access type is equal to offline. Since I need the refresh token and access token, I'm choosing it as offline. If you need only the access token, you can go ahead and choose it as online. And so the system is asking whether I'm authorizing the client to create tickets in my desk account. So I'll hold it here. I'll set up the step 3, and then we'll come back and generate the code. So let's get into the functions. So flow functions, and I'll say desk step 3, desk step 3. Okay. So we choose the default namespace, and let me zoom it in. So the step 3 is to generate the tokens, and for generating the tokens, the endpoint is this is the endpoint. Let me just copy it and paste it as this URL is equal to okay. And now we have to construct the parameters. Params is equal to map and params dot put. The first parameter we are going to pass is the code. Okay, code, and the code is we will leave it empty as of now. And params dot put. Next one is grant type. Grant type is going to be authorization code. Okay, authorization code. Start put authorization code. After that, we'll have the client ID. The client ID is going to be from here. The client ID. Params put. Then comes the client secret. This one. Okay, we set up a code. So I'm copying the client secret over here, and then comes the params dot put, we have to give the redirect URI. So let me get the redirect URI. And the redirect URI is going to be, I got the redirect URI, and we have to make a post request. So response is equal to post URL of this URL comma and okay. And now info response. Let's not do the same mistake we did last time. And now we are going to get the code. So I'm going ahead and accepting it. In the URL, I'll be provided with the code. Let me just copy this code and copy it and paste it over here. And now let me execute it. So we have it provided with the refresh token and access token and all. So let me just so if I have the access token and refresh token now with me, let me just bring them down. Okay, so it has the refresh token and access token and API domain. Okay, so now we have the refresh token, and using this refresh token, we can go ahead and generate new access token. Let me do that process as well. I'm just copying a refresh token. So with this, the clients, with this, the resource owner's side is completed. We have to make sure that this refresh token runs every 3,600 seconds. So I'm going to the client side. This is the client side application. We can see it's under Surendra.sr plus T0. And so let me put it as test refresh. Default space and create a new function. I'll just put it in a variable. Token is equal to first token has been brought in. Okay. And now let us go ahead and refresh this access token. Going to documentation, following step 4. Okay, from the refresh token, we have to get the access token. So I'm just copying this as again this endpoint. Zoom out. Base URL is equal to and then we have to pass on the refresh token and let me construct a parameter param body here. Params is equal to param dot put refresh token refresh token refresh token. We can pass this variable, right, token, and then comes the client ID, client secret, scope, redirect URI, and client type. Okay, so let's do it one by one. Around put client ID is going to be here we have it. So let me just copy it from here. Let me copy it from your code. So I don't have to type it one more time. So we have the client ID, client secret, and redirect URI. Client ID, client secret, redirect URI, and we have to pass a grant type and scope. So around output scope scope is going to be the scope which we chosen is to desk.tickets.create. Okay, and around output grant type, and grant type is a push token. Grant type is first token. So now we can make the post URL request. So we say response is equal to post URL of this URL, comma, and let us info the response, info response. And we know we need only the access token, right? So from the sample response, we can see the access token is the first key which we want. And I say dot get JSON, get JSON of access token. So let's just save and let me zoom out. Params is not defined. Param. Okay, params. Okay, here I used a yes here. So this is the issue when I copy paste. I just don't check them rightly. So there's no issue, and if I execute, we have been provided with the access token. And let me save that in the access. Okay, access token, and so now we have got our access token. So let us go back to our form and find out. So let's go back to the documentation and find out what are how we can create a ticket. Okay. So to create a ticket, so the required is the subject. Subject field is required. Department ID, contact ID. Contact ID is being given as optional. So it's mandatory that we need a subject, we need a department ID, we need a contact ID, and so what else we might need? We can set the rest of the things are optional. I think we have to set the status and priority. Yeah, priority status. So these things are optional. And let's go ahead and start building a map which can hold these values. So I'm taking these values from the sample response itself because they will be having the correct field link names. So its field name is different from field link name. So we can either go ahead and info a particular record in our desk and then get the field link names, or I'll just take it from the document itself directly. So what I'm going to do is to start with the endpoint. Okay, so the URL, it's the base URL endpoint. So it is okay. So as the base URL, okay, so the base URL is going to be just.zoho.com. So it's they just thought we can take it from we can take it from the normal one. So let's say endpoint is equal to https double slash des.zoho.com slash uh, yeah, this it's des.zoho.com slash api slash v1. So that is endpoint. Okay, so tickets, create ticket, right? Create ticket. So this is the one. Okay. Slash API slash v1 slash tickets. Okay, so this is the endpoint, and now we are going to construct the body map. Okay, and we also are supposed to construct the header map as well. So let us start with the header map. H map is equal to map, and H map dot put. The key is going to be authorization. The key is going to be authorization. I'm copying it and paste it here, and the value is going to be Zoho Auth token space the access token. Okay. So again, for this demo purpose, I have constructed this API call in such a way, every time I run this function, I generate a new access token. But that is not a normal case. What we do is we run a scheduler, we get an access token and store the access token in a particular field so that we can go and get the field whenever we are, whenever it is required. So since this is just a demo, I'm not spending much time on storing and fetching that data. Okay. So there's access, okay, and now let us go ahead and construct the body map. Body map is equal to map body map dot put. So we are going to create first one, which is we are going to create is the subject. Okay, let me create the subject. And the subject is this is V2 test ticket from the demo class, which is that. So here's the V2 API demo, and the next one is next one we are going to do is to get the department ID. So department ID and the contact ID. So let me choose the department ID, body map dot put, and the department ID, and I'll leave it empty as of now. And that's body map dot put, and the next one is the contact ID. Again, I'll leave this empty as of now. We'll get that value. And the next one which we are going to set is the priority. So here we have the priority body map dot put priority, and let us set the priority to high. And the priority is a drop down field, so I'm just getting the value from here. So if the drop down field is not having the value which we are sending out, and it will not populate that value over there. Okay, so that is why I'm giving the same value which has been given, and let us put the status as open. Okay, so it should be case sensitive as well. Body map dot put status, and status is going to be open. And so let us get the department ID and contact ID from here. So getting into my desk account and settings, departments, data view C, and I'm getting the department ID here. So it's going to be a number. Okay, and then comes the contact ID, right? Customers. Okay, I have Benedict Shiva Gurunathan. I will get it Shiva Gurunathan, and the contact ID. I'm going to put it as okay. So now we have contact ID, department ID, subject, status, and all. So let us pass a dynamic subject here. So let me get a string subject, and instead of passing a static value, we pass a dynamic. And now let us go ahead and make a post URL. Here create is equal to post URL of let me say endpoint comma body map b map. That's the right. So I think I make it end up in error. So let us try body map comma header map. Okay, and let's put the body map as to string. Since we are passing the data as string, not as params, we are putting it as toString, and I'll just info it or info it. Before we get create, let us save. I think I might have missed something. Let's see. Uh, this is a sample ticket to test P2. I submit it. Okay, I didn't miss anything. There's a success message. So if I go to tickets, and okay, got it. We'll keep it. So here we can see we have a sample ticket. So okay, so luckily I didn't miss any of this functionality. So I can execute it any number of times. So the reason being is I have the refresh token, and if I want to remove access to this particular refresh token, I can just copy this refresh token and go ahead and perform the step 5, where the refresh tokens access will be revoked, and that's all. So the client will not be able to do any further functions using the refresh token. Okay. So let me execute it one more time. And this time I say this is the second ticket. I'm submitting, I'm getting a success message, and should auto refresh. I have a strong connection. It's not refreshing. Let me refresh it. So it's showing this is a second ticket. Okay. So that is this is how we can establish V2 API connection between Zoho Creator and Support Desk. And we have in this application so far we have seen Zoho Creator with Zoho Desk, Zoho Creator with uh, so creator with desk, and Postman with creator. So we will start our session tomorrow with that, and then we'll go ahead with the middlewares. Okay.